Okay, welcome to the Arthropologist. If you have clicked on this video, then you've done to your boots what I did to my boots, which that's okay. They're boots. This is what they're designed for. These are work boots, Twisted X. I've had them for a year, maybe 2 years, and I wear them a lot. They're the boots that I wear to kick around, and in case I have to do something really nasty, I've got this pair. And I was out and doing some work and I was inundated with a deluge of rain. And I was up to well past my ankles in the water, and for like 45 minutes or so. So, I was really in a tremendous amount of water. And these boots got completely soaked. So what do? Well, we'll get right down to it. The first thing you do is pull the inserts out. I've got a couple of Stetson inserts for the boots to fill them out a little bit more. Pull them out, because if you don't, the sole of the boot is usually a hard rubber, or even if it's hard leather, between that and then the rubber sole of your inserts, that's going to trap water. It's never going to get out. It could take months to dry. Take those out, and then I didn't have newspaper, but what I did have was butcher paper. So I wadded them up, stuffed them down in the boots to fill out the toe box, the instep. Can't remember what this is called. This is the counter vamp. This is the vamp. So you don't want that vamp to start collapsing, your toe to start collapsing. So by filling that out, that'll help it to dry and harden up with the shape of the original boot. Same thing, I put butcher paper all the way up pretty high in the shaft so that the shaft would dry pretty solid. The next thing I did, or I'm getting ready to do, is take a brush and buff them off. As always, this is a light colored brush to be used only with light colored boots. You don't want to use a brush that you've used for black or dark brown. If you've got light colored boots like cognac or something like that, you want a brush specifically for that. You don't want a brush that you've used for your dark brown boots, because you could wind up getting contaminants on it, and then you've changed the color of your boot. Okay, then the next thing, none of this stuff is sponsored, so I'm just giving you my full opinion as best I know. I like Bick 4 products. I like Twister products. I've used them quite a bit, and they've always come out the way they advertised. So this is Bick 4. It is a leather conditioner. Conditions, cleans, polishes, protects. Biggest thing is you want to get oils back in this leather, because if it gets water in it, it can start drying them out, and that's the worst thing that can happen to leather, is it'll dry out and then it'll start cracking. Now, let me go back. Once I put the newsprint, or in my case butcher paper, in, I let them sit 24 hours like that. I didn't do this a year ago when they got inundated, and it took like a week for them to dry out, literally. The worst thing you can do is put them near a heater or any heat source. You'll distort the leather. You'll dry them too fast. They'll get brittle, shrink in weird ways, and crack. So be patient, but there are things that you can do to accelerate the process. There's two reasons for putting that butcher paper or newsprint in. One is to help it keep the shape, but number two, it's absorbent. So it's going to absorb a lot of water from the inside, which will expedite the drying process without distressing the leather and overdoing it. And then later that night, I put them in front of a floor fan, and the next morning, basically within 24 hours, these boots were totally dry. I would give them another day just to sit. So even if it's dry to the touch, I would give it another 24 hours just to let them rest. Then you can put the inserts back in, take all the paper out, put the inserts back in, and now you want to polish. Now the one thing, if you don't want to go through all this, the one thing you can run into is that if you let these things sit for a week or whatever, really wet, 2 weeks. A lot of people will take wet boots and just stick them in the closet, a dark closet. Well, you're just inviting mold and fungus to get into your boot. It'll eat the leather, ruin the leather, cause it again to get gooey, and it'll ruin the boot. Also, if you're having odor with your feet, it's probably, well, at least one of the reasons, is that you've allowed fungus, mold, bacteria to build up in there. Now, I suggest if you have work boots and you use them a lot for conditions where your feet are really sweaty or they're getting wet, have 2 pairs. These I'll talk about in a little bit later, but these are steel-toed boots that are heavy, but they're 25 years old. I don't wear them that often, except if I'm using my chainsaw or working with logs or anything that I could drop on my toes. I mean, I love these Twisted X boots, but they're not composite. They're just leather. And I don't feel comfortable getting out with my chainsaw or anything like that if I don't have a steel-toed boot. So I've got that, but these boots needed a couple of days to sit and relax, and that's what you need. You need to really have 2 pairs of boots so that if nothing else, if you're wearing them daily, you need to go back and forth and let this boot rest while you do this boot. Go back and forth. It will keep your feet from smelling. It'll keep you from getting athlete's foot, or at least it'll help. I'm not a doctor. This is information I've gleaned for years of listening to doctors and foot experts. But it will extend the life of your boot a lot, so that you may have 2 boots, but I don't know, they could last 2 or 3 times longer than they would. So having 2 at one time may save you buying a couple of pairs down the road. So just a thought. These boots I'm really surprised at. They're Brahma boots. They're cheap, came from Walmart 25 years ago. I've never done anything with them, and I'm going to today because I want to keep them. I seriously doubt. I'm just talking out of turn. I don't know. But, guys, nothing seems to be built as well as it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. And if you've got something from 20 or 25 years ago and it's still working, I would look at taking really good care of it. These steel-toed Brahma boots I bought at Walmart, again, 25 years ago, never been treated, never been touched. They're oil permeated, so that may be part of the reason why. But they're super good boots. I just don't like them heavy all the time, and I don't like lacing them up. So I love my Twisted X boots. I wear these when I have to. We've let them dry out for a couple of days so that they're nice and dry. We've buffed them off so that we've gotten all the dirt and grass seeds and that other stuff off. Now we're going to use Bick 4. Now the reason I use Bick 4 is that will not darken leather. And everyone I've talked to and every other video I've watched has said don't use or be careful of other things, mink oil and a lot of other oils that, they may actually do better than this. But if this is a lighter color and you don't want to darken it, you want to use Bick 4. These are not my Sunday go to meetings. If you are going to use this on them, regardless of what that sign, that letters down there say, I would still test it. If you've got ostrich, if you've got cognac, anything that's light colored that could possibly darken. That's one of the beautiful things about these pull tabs. Usually they're made of the same leather as the vamp and the toe and everything. So what you could do is take a little bit of this, put it on it. Actually, it says leave it for 24 hours to really tell. But you could do that, come back a day later and see if it hadn't darkened it, then you'll be okay. But if not, then you've just darkened your pull tab on the inside and you hadn't ruined your pretty boots. So, that's it. Do we shake this? Safe for all exotic skins. Please read instructions well before using. And it does say shake well before using. Do not use on suede, rough out, distressed, napped, or pre-treated leathers. I don't know that this is rough out. It's just old leather or pretty rough leather. Probably it would cause some issues, probably modeling, discoloration and stuff, which, again, these are not my Sunday go to meetings, so if they get weird, that's okay. I'd rather it do that and still have a good work boot than not and let them dry out on me. These things cost $180, so I don't want to spend another $180. Ah, yes. Brand new bottle. I bought it at Boots and More. Again, not an endorsement. I like Cavender's, I like Boots and More, I like Boot Barn. I bought stuff from all of them, and they're, I think, all reasonably good. Just depending on what you want, what you're buying. So I would make sure that you're getting this down in the welt. That's it, guys. Be real careful because you know, you'll treat all of the wood, all of the leather, and if you miss one spot, well, that's going to be the spot that's going to rot. That's going to be the spot that's going to give you grief down the road. Now, you can see right now that the boot is darkening. Don't panic. That's typical. Anything that gets wet will darken, but as soon as it dries out, it should return to its original color. Now this is a rubber-soled boot, so I'm not sure if this is, I think that welt part's probably rubber as well, but I'm going to be safe, rather be safe than sorry. I'm going to work my way all the way around the boot, and get up on the shaft too, because the shaft is important. That can crack, that can give you grief. Everybody I have listened to has said just rub it in with your hands. A lot of this stuff, you're going to get it on your hands. That's just going to be a part of it. So if it was super toxic or something, I probably would just go to something else, because I just don't want to fool with a lot of toxic stuff. Probably not going to tape it. I'll just do the other one real quick, set them aside. Now, the man that sold this to me at Boots and More, he said probably what you want to do is, if they're boots that have gotten really wet or really need it, put it on, let it dry overnight, come back, do it again to really soak in. So in this case, it may take a couple of days. Look how this is already, see how it's gotten wet and it's starting to collapse back in. While this treatment is starting to soak in, I'm probably going to get some butcher paper and stuff back in here so that it'll, again, keep its form. So anytime you get your boots wet, you want to put shoe trees, paper, something in here to keep them from losing their shape. Many of you astute observers will say, well, wait a minute, I thought you said that this would not darken the leather, but these boots are clearly darker now than they were when you first started. And that is true, but they're not darker because the Bick 4 has darkened them, but instead they're darker because they've been returned to their original color. If you've enjoyed this episode of The Arthropologist, please hit the like button. And if you'd like to see more episodes like this, think about subscribing. I'm Bill Wilson, and I'm The Arthropologist.